Would someone turn it up for me, please?
Jazz, crank it up for me.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, listen. Listen, darling. Listen to the violins. Beautiful. Oh. The oboes will be coming next.
Hi, and welcome back to the Full House. All you cool cats and cool dudes. Don't even know why I put it up like that. That's a weird gender take. My name's T.L. Foster. I put my foot in my mouth all the time, and I'm joined by, of course, the great Sonya Ballantyne.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going, Sonya?
It's going all right. This is one of my favorite episodes because it has one of my favorite songs by Snap in it. So
I think this is like the definitive '90s song for movies. Like I just like in the trailer, like it's like I got the power. It's just, but it's all throughout this episode. It's so great.
Oh yeah, like I love Will's musical taste is on point this season, so I'm just like, oh, it's so great.
But what is the episode that we are looking at today?
So we are looking at season 1, episode 2, "Bang the Drum Ashley," directed by Debbie Allen and written by Shannon. I'm gonna say this written name wrong. Shannon Gohan. So this episode first aired September 17th, 1990, and in this episode, Will pawns Ashley's hated violin for a drum set. And we also get the first appearance of one of the greatest characters in history, our beloved Jazz.
Yes, we get our first introduction to Jazz, which is wild to me. But so early. There's not anything really notable about this week in television. The only thing is like the CBN. Are you familiar with the Christian broadcast network?
I probably had a satellite dish when I was a kid that probably got that channel, so I probably saw it.
If you ever seen it's like the weird thing is like there's a weird coat of arms. It's like I think it's like a lion and a goat. Something weird. Like I would always see like it's, and I talked about this. I've done some shows for the Laser Time Network, and I've talked about being in a black church and like a black church. Like these are like iconography I don't know. Like I'm used to like Jesus, thorn, crap. Yes, know that. But like the lion stuff, I'm just like this is like this is some white stuff. Like not to be pejorative, but just like. I have no idea what any of this.
It's like that is something else. Yes, exactly.
But yeah, no. So this, so yeah, that's like really the only thing that kind of happened this week in television.
Well, this episode would probably be a little bit longer just because of how many great things happened in it. Because it's like, I guess I said off the top, like this is one of my favorite episodes, if only for the use of the song "I Got the Power" by Snap. So we start with Uncle Phil preparing for his day where his office is getting renovated. And so he's been suffering from headaches. He's been suffering from like general stress. So Jeffrey's been helping him out. And then all of a sudden you hear off camera Will screaming the lyrics to "I Got the Power" while he's gargling. So... It's one of my favorite scenes because I just like Will Smith like screaming in a girl's voice is one of my favorite aspects of this show. Like it's, as I said last episode, him screaming in general is hilarious to me. So it's just so funny. Plus this even
right.
20, 30 years on, "I Got the Power" is still one of the best songs in the history of time. It's one of my favorites. I think I'm the reason why
it's one of the things.
It's so high on Spotify.
Yeah, it's one of the songs like I know like I know, like, one of these days when I do like a brand new trailer, in 2022, and all of a sudden you're gonna hear do 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 do, and it's gonna cut like one of those old '90s trailers because I just love it so much.
Well, that song has been in every single '90s movie that was a blockbuster. Like, it was in the Power Rangers soundtrack. It was actually in the new Power Rangers soundtrack too, like with a remix, and it was hysterical to me. I think it was in the Super Mario Brothers movie too. Like, I can't remember, like, but every
It's
movie
actually
has
in
used
the
it.
it's actually in the trailer for Super Mario Brothers too. So it's just like
Oh.
they have the whole thing going on, and it's like it's two brothers, like Luigi and Mario.
I got the power.
But no, it's such a like you said, it's such a like when you hear that song, you're just like, and then Will singing it like throughout the episode is of course just great. This is like him every like I got the power, just like yeah, it's just such a good time.
I think they even use it in later. They use the song again in later. I think later this season when he's at the pool hall. Like they play it when he's when he's hustling everybody. So it's just like it's just one of my favorite songs. And like once we get off here tonight, I'll probably have to go listen to it again. So, but one of the weirdest things about this episode for me, because I don't know if it's the same with you, TL, but as a kid, I did not have a lot of after-school programs. Like, because I grew up, like, for those that don't know, I grew up on a Indian reservation. And though there was some stuff to do after school, it wasn't as organized as Ashley seems to be. Because Ashley has full-time job of just after-school activities. Like,
right.
If we see her calendar of what she does throughout the week after school, and it's like violin, ballet, tennis, horseback riding was one of them. And
Right.
I'm like, what the heck? Like, does she have no time for herself? Like, what does she do? Like,
Yeah.
everything seems to be accounted for. And I think it goes back to that conversation we had last episode about how Phil and Vivian are trying to give Ashley the things that they weren't able to have as kids themselves.
Right.
So I think they're, like, overcompensating for a lot of things.
Well, and it's weird. So like I also like I didn't do a lot of at school activities, but I had what's called it was called like an after school program or like extended care because my mom was in the military and my dad was overseas before he came back over here after he got injured. So me and my sister would stay after school, but like that was like, all right, now you can just go on the computer and play Math Blaster, or here's an episode of Power Rangers that's going to show on television. Not like, oh, you're going to go horseback riding. Though, okay, so I'm telling this story. Rashonda, who is my sister, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell this story. So we used to live in the Netherlands before we moved to the States. Again, my parents were in the military. So we were in the Netherlands, and me and my sister went horseback riding. Like we just went to the horses. Nothing like fancy where we had so it's just like, you know, you go and you see the horses. Well, my sister got a pony that was like a little bit of a jerk. And she happened to be kind of near the back end of the pony. And yeah, so she gets kicked by the pony. And that was the last time we did anything with horses at all.
Well, this is related to that. So, as an Indigenous person, missionaries are often trying to reclaim our souls. Like, we're often, like, so there was one year where there was a free Bible camp that was offered to kids on my reserve. And that included a week at this campsite, which was 2 hours away from my res, where it was completely free. But you got to learn horseback riding, how to shoot a bow, wall climbing, all kinds of really, really fun things. The only stipulation was that every day you had to spend 2 hours in church. And so my mom knowing how much I hated organized religion, because my dad would try to take me to church and I would pretend I was sick every single time. Like, I would try to make myself throw up so he would not take me to church. And so my mom was like, Sonya, why do you want to go to Bible camp? And like totally deadpan, I'm like, because I really want to learn more about Jesus, Mom. And then she reads the pamphlet and she's like, you want to learn how to horseback ride, right? And I was like, yes. So I put up with 2 hours of church a day, 7 days a week, to learn how to ride horses and shoot bows and arrows. And I actually would hustle kids for their candy. Because I found out I was really, really good at shooting a bow and arrow. So, like, stereotypical for a Native person. But yeah, like, it's just so funny to me. Some of the, like, the after-school activities that Ashley has are just amazing to me. Because I'm like, wow, that'd be so cool. Like, because my school was, like, the bare minimum. And so, like, on a res, it's, like, bare minimum. But, like, some of this, like, because I always wanted to do ballet. And the fact that she got to do ballet was so cool to me. I was like, wow. That's awesome, Ashley. Why don't you like it? So.
Yeah, and I think about, like, because, like, in my school, like, so when I was in elementary school, I think I would have been, like, if we're using comparative age, like, Ashley's a little bit older than I am. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, no. She's probably, like, a good 4 or 5 years older than I am. But, like, when I was in school, like, the most we would do that would be, like, an extracurricular, like activity was, like, recorder. Like, yeah. I learned how to play hot cross buns, like Eddie Day, Bob Bob, like all those. I learned how to do those, but we didn't really get, like, it wasn't until I was in middle school where we started doing stuff. Like, when you said, like, bow and arrow, I remember the first time we did bow and arrow in middle school, and I get it, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to be like Hawkeye or Robin Hood. Like, this is easy. I can do this. And I remember firing, and the arrow just goes like ploops right out, and I was just like, oh, I don't know how to do any of this, so I don't get it. But so, like, I do understand, like, I think that's really cool that they have her very structured of, like, hey, go do stuff like violin and everything like that. And, like, when you're a kid, you think, like, oh, these 2 hours are forever. Like, and it's, like, realistically, it's like 2 hours you could do that sitting on your head, and you have literally all day to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, 'cause she, her class, her violin class is like an hour long. Like, they're late for it, right?
Right.
And so, but it's just funny to me because, like, it has one of my this episode has one of my favorite scenes in one of my favorite scenes in the whole series, where like Will is tasked with being Ashley's driver. Like, he has to take the BMW and the Jag, but Uncle Phil is like, no, you're taking the station wagon. So Will is tasked with picking up all of the girls in the violin class, which includes this poor little girl who has, like, a cello that's bigger than her.
She has a full-on upright bass, and he's just like, nope, I'm not picking you up. I'm like, what the hell?
And he leaves that poor little girl on the side of the road. So it's just like... Well, there would have been no room for her, but it was still one of my favorite scenes just to see Will, like, his eyes just bug out.
Well, the thing that's wild is, like, all the girls are playing the violins in the car. And I'm just like, I wanted to be like, if I was Will, I would have stopped the car and be like, is any of this enjoyable to any of you guys? Like, you can't have enough room to play the violin.
Properly,
there.
Yeah. It's just so funny to me. And one thing I did appreciate about this episode is that Ashley is not the only person of color in that class. Like, there's an Asian girl as well. There's like a girl who looks Hispanic, and I really like that because it could have easily been a class of just white girls.
Right, and she would be the only. Yeah, she'd be the only black person there, and I think that's, like, it also is shown, like, you know, hey, that this. Even though this is a very rich area, it's, you know, somewhat diverse, which is really good, and I think that's very important to show. Let's talk about this instructor, who apparently has had sex with every old Hollywood person and every old music professional ever. She's like, oh yes, that's Tchaikovsky strings. He wrote it for a lover who would be jealous if he wasn't there. It's like, ma'am.
Like, she is, like, in front of 8-year-olds. Like, why is she, like, being so sexual? Like, Will is just disgusted the whole time, and he's like, it's just so funny to me, because I'm like, there's a scene later where Will is talking about how Jazz is not as experienced as Madame Chotchka, and he's like, but then again, who is?
Well, and, like, so I was trying to get her, because she doesn't look like, and like I said, being older now, she looks like she's probably in her mid-40s or 50s.
Yeah, like at most she's like 55 or something.
So she's not really old, but she's also talking like Oh yeah, I had Laurel and Hardy. It's like, ma'am, they were like old in the early 30s and 20s. Like, what are you talking about? Like, unless she was like trying to hook up with like old Laurel and Hardy, but then at that point, then what's the point of doing that?
But she gets around, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like, she has like a really storied life. I just love it.
Yes.
But I just love the scene too where she gets mad at Will for reading a magazine while the girls are playing. She's like, "What are you doing while this beautiful music is being played?" And he's like, "Oh, like I'm just here to drive." It's so funny to me.
Which, like,
scene.
I don't blame Will. Like, I've been to places. So I have two younger brothers. So I have gone to places where they're doing stuff, and like I'm not invested in it. I've also done stuff where I'm pretty sure like they weren't invested in it. Like my senior year in high school, I was a escort for a debutante ball, which I was already bored. Didn't want to do that. Literally told my dad when he went to go pick me up from Jacksonville, he was like, "Hey, they want you to do this. You want to do this?" Nope. They got courted in church. They got talked into doing it. Which she was like, "Dude, you said no." And I was like, "I know." But I didn't want to do that. I wouldn't expect my brother to be like, "Oh, I'm going to pay attention to you learning how to walk one way the aisle and then walk one way back because it's boring. It's boring." So I wouldn't want to have to learn how to do that too.
Well, I'm like, I recently started the city I live in, Winnipeg, has a really well-known ballet company in Canada called the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and I recently started taking classes out there because I've always wanted, like, despite being a very tomboyish little girl, I always wanted to learn how to dance ballet.
Right.
And so it's really funny to me because in addition to the recreational adult division, they have like the school, which is for like younger kids like that are under 18 and that are learning to be professional dancers. And they actually have to have signs in the classes that say that parents aren't allowed because I guess like parents will come in there and like be totally like, "Hey, why aren't you paying a little bit more attention to Katrina?" or stuff like that. And so it's, I guess, like like I wish there was more people like Will who are just like hanging out in the back and just letting them do their own thing. Because like the kids are not like I was watching this with the captions, but on the show it's like they're playing off key, they're playing like poorly, and it's just so funny to me because it's like Will's just there to be supportive, but I'm like,
right.
These are kids playing the hardest instrument in the world.
Right.
Of course, it's gonna be terrible.
Right. Like I would really hate. Like I did a little bit of band and I was terrible at it, and I was like, this just isn't for me, and I would really hate to like have to be the parent. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here for an hour while you play the violin very terribly, but you have to be terrible at first so you can get better. Like, so I understand, but. It's just...
Well, especially that scene where she's like faster, 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 and I'm like, they're playing so badly. Like, let them get good at the basics first. It was so terrible.
Yeah, but it's from here where Will finds out that Ashley doesn't love the violin. So they go to a pawn shop in East LA.
East LA.
Which, I told Sonya this before. I've been to LA. I love LA. LA is beautiful. It's a beautiful city. East LA. I have no problem with East LA. But I'm also, black and not rich, so you can't really rob me. But East LA is kind of. People say it's kind of sketchy. I loved it. I love East LA.
Isn't that where because I'm huge, like, for those that don't know, I'm a huge fan of U2, and I think they actually shot one of their videos in East LA. So yeah, so it's just like I know of it, and it's actually funny because one of the reserves where I live is called East LA as slang. So when they talk about it, like every native person back home, when they talked about this scene, would just like go crazy when they talked about it. But I assumed that it's a bit like, as a kid, when not knowing anything about LA, I was like, oh, it must be the part of LA that people don't go to when you're from Bel-Air. Yeah,
well, it's like, so East LA, which is different in Compton, which is different than, other parts. East LA is a larger Hispanic, population. and again, I am if I am wrong, I apologize. I'm trying to be as sensitive as I can be. But like if you ever watch like the Cheech Marin show, like he has a movie called Escape East LA, and that's kind of like what you would picture what East LA is, right?
Well, I just love the way Will talks about it. He's like, oh, it's like you don't have a lot of pawn shops in Bel Air, and that's really unfortunate. Like I had to go all the way to East LA, and then and Viv is like, why'd you go to East LA? So, it's so funny.
But yeah, he gets Ashley a drum set, as well as he gets Vivian a fake necklace and Uncle Phil a fake
ring,
fake diamond ring, where he's like, I'm not wearing it. He's like, oh, I have it. And he's like, no.
And then he's like, how dare you pawn her violin? And Will tells him like she doesn't even like playing it, and we see Phil's real reason for why Ashley has so many activities, and he's like, she will learn to like it later.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, so like it's not Ashley's choice that she's doing this.
Right.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense.
And I think the phrasing of that when you're watching this originally when we were kids, and now watching this, like I said, me now in my early to mid 30s, like I get that like because I think all the time, like I do music stuff on GarageBand now. I'm like, man, I really wish I would have stayed in band and learned how to play the instrument correctly. Like I had all this time in the world, or I wish I would have learned how to do a jump shot, or I really wish I would learn how to bump, and I could have been a wrestler. Like it's like all this stuff where you're just like, when I was younger, I had all this time in the world, but as a kid, if I don't like it, why would I continue to do it? I understand both sides of it.
Well, like that's what, again, going back to the ballet, seeing these like little girls who are like little boys too that are like 12 or 13 deciding to commit their life to ballet is something that I'm like even like I am I was born in 85, but like I am only now finding out what I want to do with my life at 34, and the fact that Phil wants Ashley to be this accomplished young lady when she's 9?
Right.
Like I'm just like, let her be who she wants to be. And I think it really sets up Ashley for later seasons because she both admires and respects Will and her father.
Right.
And she even says like, I didn't want to disappoint Will and I didn't want to disappoint my dad. Like she respects them enough to not want to hurt their feelings. And I think that's where the conflict comes from later because they keep wanting to use Ashley as like a blank slate for their own wishes and dreams, and the conflict comes from them realizing that Ashley is her own person. Right. And I love that. So it's just like it's so cool because I love Ashley. Ashley is such a cool character, and I like when she comes into her own. And in this episode, like her learning to play the drums, I just love that line where they get interrupted and Will is like, this girl's not going to be on Yo MTV Raps unless she work with me. And so and this is so cool. But again, we're skipping over the part where they meet Jazz.
Yes. So Jazz, played by DJ Jazzy Jeff, of course, Will Smith in real life, his road dog, his partner, is like his ace. We get two very important things. First, the all-time great handshake, the so good. And then of course, well, we'll get there because he gets through. But yeah, Jazz comes in and he's just Jazz, and I love Jazz as a character because he's just so grimy. Like, a guy like this, or even a girl like this, or they just come in and they're just like, yo, why are you so grimy? Like, I can't dislike you because you're you, but I dislike a lot of things about you. And why are you like this? Like,
he's such a great character, though. I just love him.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's such a good. Why are you like this, Jazz? Like that's every time I'm just like, why are you like this?
Well, and I have no idea. Like, where did they meet him? You know what I mean? Like, they say they met him at like a club, right? So, he
said he met him at a club as a producer. So like, he isn't back from Philly. He's just a dude that was in L.A. apparently that Will just kind of gravitated to.
Like, yeah, in later seasons, like there's an episode where Will has to move in with Jazz, and Jazz is living in like possibly the worst apartment building in Los Angeles, and it's just funny to me to see like. Because Jazz, like, this episode sets up that Jazz is obsessed with Hillary.
Yes.
And it's really, really funny to me because whenever I see Jazz without his sunglasses, it's strange to me. Like, I don't know. It's like seeing, what's a good example?
I would say, like, Dale Gribble from King of the Hill. He
Yeah.
always has those
or
aviators
it's like
on.
Shredder without his mask. You know what I mean? It's
right.
weird.
Yeah.
And so, this is where it starts, where he never really takes off his glasses. So I just love that.
But yeah, he ends up running afoul of the banks during their tea time, and which for good there, full on tea time. Now, Sonya, I'm an American, but I was around a lot of British people, so I'm not a pig-headed American. I have never had a tea time ever. I love tea.
Yeah.
I love tea, sweet tea. But that's like a southern thing. You might as well have just gotten a thing of sugar, cut the bottom off, and then dump
poured it into water. Yeah,
exactly. But like that's the tea. But I've never had like a full on tea set. Pour the tea kettle. Like has that ever been?
And sat around and talked. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like an awful time.
Yes, exactly. Well, because we like the extent of tea for my family is my grandma would serve it and she'd put a lot of sugar and a lot of milk in mine.
Right.
I've had sweet tea, and iced tea in Canada is a lot different than sweet tea.
No,
so when I first went to Florida on a road trip, I would accidentally order iced tea, and they'd be like, "Oh, you mean sweet tea, sugar?" And they'd bring out like this horrible like concoction, and I'm like, "Jesus, how do people survive in this country?" But like the tea time aspect is so hilarious to me because I'm like, this is like, I just love the way Carlton talks about it. Like, see, a tea time has been an honored tradition for as long as I can remember. If we let Will ruin it, what's next to go? Christmas.
And that's like I'm like that's not like I'm just saying like that's not Carlton. That's some like that's like some alien that's pretending to be Carlton Banks. Is like that's like Carlton would be like he'd be like, huh. Of course, Will's gonna ruin tea time. I just like he would be haughty about it instead of being like, oh, well, Will is ruining tea time. Like it's just like it's a different person. It's a literal different person.
But I love how classy. I think it's just because Jeffrey's British. That's why they.
Yes, it has to be, right?
Because it seems like it's something that they do for the benefit of Ashley's upbringing and such.
Yeah.
Like we get the impression that Jeffrey like runs afoul of everybody in the family. Like I always wonder how they keep him hired because like he's a great butler, but he's a terrible person to them. And
right.
The only person he really, really enjoys the company of is Ashley.
Yeah,
and I think like maybe it was him who decided that they'd have tea time for her benefit.
Right. Well, and the thing is, and you see it when we get to later seasons, the younger people that they come in with, it seems like they don't treat Jeffrey like, the hired help. They treat him like a member of the family.
Yeah, which I enjoy. which is
great. And I think as the seasons go on, the whole family ends up doing that. But the great thing about it is like Jeffrey also doesn't give a shit. Like he works the job and he's like, oh man, I work this job. Like I have to be professional, but I'm also going to I'm going to razz at you whenever I need to.
Yeah, it's so funny to me because it's like it sets it up, but like I like the scene doesn't like is totally against how characters are later. I like that it sets up the fakeness of their tea time because it's like it's totally fake. It's set up just so Phil can prove a point to Ashley about why she should still be playing violin. And like even the music they're listening to is like this is not like beautiful music, Phil. Like this is like if he wanted to like why is he playing this music? It doesn't really sound that heavy in violins either.
Right.
So I'm like, but I just love this scene too, just for like they don't even invite Jazz to tea time. He just sits down. Like
right.
And there's that whole scene where he's like holding the spoon and he says, I thought this was sterling. has that certain weight to it. And Jeffrey snatches it out of his hand.
And then like they're tossing the sugar cubes in there. He's like, I was like, oh, give me some milk. He's like, no. Just like, it's just so great. And then, like I said, we get our first jazz toss of the show.
Which is like whenever you see him wearing that shirt, he's gonna be tossed out. So like if you see him wearing that brownish shirt, like because they only filmed it once, right? And
right.
So
yeah.
It's so funny to me to see, like it's just so funny for me, like the whole section of the scene, like every single time it happens, even when I don't think it's gonna happen, it happens. Like it's so funny to me. Just the way Jazz screams as he's thrown down. It's just so
like,
funny.
Ah! It's just so it's such a really good scene. It's a really good joke that we get. Like you said, it's so early. I didn't think we'd get this joke 2 episodes in, but here we are at episode 2, and we already have like one of the most prolific jokes in the whole show.
Yeah, one of the biggest running gags. Like, I just love it.
So we actually get to the conclusion of the episode, which I think it's a very good conclusion. Like, Phil's like, well, Ashley, you've done the drums, why don't you go back to violin? And Will's like, well, she doesn't like the violin, and she first like, I don't like the violins, but then she also says, I don't like the drums either. And that's when you see that Ashley's like, hey, I'm my own person. And like you said, I think it was very important to show like how Will and Phil are both playing off her, but they're doing, and it's growing and enriching her, and she knows that she can be her own person.
Yeah, I really love that about the women on this show. Like, it's something, like, I think it's why I liked it so much is because the women are allowed to be loud and obnoxious and like man crazy. Like that's why I love when Vivian's sisters start coming into episodes, because they are like such fun characters, especially her sister Helen, who's like the man crazy one and like who is loud, and it's just so cool to me. And Ashley is one of my favorite characters just because of how she grows from this tiny little kid to somebody who has her own agency. Like, she becomes a model at the end of the show, and like she learns fashion, and like she's so cool. Like her and Hillary are like the coolest characters. Like I really love them.
Right.
And like Ashley is so sweet in this episode because she doesn't mean to hurt Will or Phil. She just realizes that she means that if she keeps playing this game, then nothing will ever change for her. She will never get to do what she wants. Right. And I like that includes the wishes of her mother, too. Yeah. She doesn't want to do ballet either.
She's like, I don't want to do ballet either. She's like, wait, what are you talking about? And we'll learn that Vivian is, like, dance is her thing. Like, dance is 1,000,000% her thing. So she's like, wait, what? And I think that was a good part about Vivian, too, because, like, the show setting up, like, well, Vivian's the one who understands, but she also is like, no, I want to do things my way as well. And I think that's
it's important. Like, honey, I want you in ballet.
Yes, right. But overall, I thought this was a very good episode. And honestly, I think this is a stronger pilot. And I think, like we talked about before, we're finally getting there with the characters. Mm-hmm. We're just, there's one character we're missing. That's Carlton. And I think we get him, I think, literally in the next episode. But we finally have Uncle Phil as I see Uncle Phil, which is really, really great.
Oh, yeah, exactly. This is a great episode. I just love it. And what is the next episode anyway? It's the one with Ice Tray, or is it...
the next...
I gotta look it up.
Hold on. I was just on here. Hold on. They're giving me all these channels. So, the next episode is going to be... So the next episode is Cubba Hub. Oh, the next episode is. So the next episode is Carlton getting into his groove when Will is trying to hook up with Dr. No's daughter.
Oh, right, this one. I love that one. Yeah, where we see how much of a snotty B word that Phil can be.
Yeah.
The episode starts with Hillary and one of her girlfriends like mocking some other girl, and there's like a mirror of the scene with Phil and one of his guy friends doing the exact same thing later. I just love that.
Well, his partner from the
law firm.
From the law firm. Yeah. It's
just so cute. I love it.
Yeah, it's such a really, really good Such a really good, such a really good episode. And so yeah, so this, like I said, has been a great episode, and we are really glad that you guys decided to spend your time with us. No, it's a little bit shorter than the last episode. I'm gonna try to keep these episodes like at the most an hour, but because we're doing a 30-minute show, there's not a lot that we really need to go in depth with until we do. There are going to be episodes, again, not far away. That's the worst part about it, is not even far away. We're going to have episodes where we're going to be diving really deep into stuff, but right now it's really good, just having a nice casual episode, a nice fun and good episode.
Where people get thrown out of houses. Yeah.
Where someone gets thrown out of a house. Sonya, where can people find you at, and what do you have to promote?
You can find me at honey_child on Twitter. My business Twitter is Sonya Ballantyne. I also have another podcast which isn't really updated, but it's a full series look at the television show Hannibal. And each episode focuses on a true crime case somehow related to that season's episode. It's called Hannibal's Horny Abachi. It's pretty fun. I like it. The season 3 is our best season, so start there. But if you're planning to do a Hannibal rewatch during the quarantine, it's a good side by side if you wanted to keep in touch. Yeah, so it's one of my favorite things I've done so far.
So you can obviously find me at pnbpodcast.com. I do a lot of shows that are video game tangentially related. Also, if you go to lasertime.com, you will see a lot of podcasts that I have been on, Cheap Podcast, VGA, all that stuff. I'm everywhere on the internet. You can follow me on Twitter at Travis L. Foster. You can follow this show on Twitter at Pool House Live.
Yes.
I did it right that time. There we go. So you can follow the show at Pool House Live. If you're listening to this, it has been on iTunes and or Spotify, or whatever podcast service that you use. But if this is on iTunes, if you're listening to this on iTunes, please give us 5 stars. That's the way people can learn about us, and tell a friend. As we get bigger, we might do other stuff. Like, we want to monetize this. We want you to give us money. That's the thing.
Could we get Will Smith on this show? Possibly. Yeah.
If enough people are talking about this show, we could try to get Will Smith. I would not try to do that. So, if you please tell a friend. If you like I said, if you like Fresh Prince, if you like hearing 2 diverse voices talking about a show that means very much to us, I would like you to do that. As I say all the time, I love doing this show. Sonya is obviously always great, and I'm just here, to make it where it's a little bit worse. Just a little bit worse.
Oh, you make it better. We won't throw you out of the house yet. So.
All right. But for Sonya, my name is CL Foster. This has been live from the Pool House, and don't get thrown out of the house like Jazz. See you guys.
Like the gun of the whip, I snap attack.